Don't leave me alone, Samuel. Please, I can't do this without you. The words cut through the storm like a knife through butter. Samuel Winters stood frozen on the rain-soaked porch, one boot already pointing toward his horse. Thunder rolled across the Oklahoma sky, and lightning lit up Olivia Campbell's face. Her green eyes were wide with fear. Her hand gripped his arm so tight he could feel her nails through his shirt. He should go. He'd already made up his mind. His horse was saddled and waiting by the fence, ready to take him back to Double Creek Ranch where he belonged. Back to his simple life. Back to safety. But those eyes, God help him, those same green eyes had haunted his dreams for 7 years. Olivia, he started, but his voice died in his throat. Behind her, through the cracked door of the old Miller cottage, he could see two small shapes huddled on a worn-out couch. Her children, a little girl with blonde braids clutching a rag doll, and a baby boy sleeping against her shoulder. They looked so small, so helpless. They're going to take everything, Olivia whispered. Her voice broke. The bankmen came again today. They said I have 3 days to pay what Henry owed, or they'll take the cottage. They'll take the furniture. Samuel, they said they might even take my babies to a workhouse until I can provide for them. Samuel's jaw tightened. He'd heard the gossip in town. Olivia Wright had come back to Oakage 3 days ago, but she hadn't come back as the girl who'd left. She'd come back as a widow. A broke, desperate widow with 2 kids and nothing but the clothes on their backs. The rain came down harder. Water dripped from the porch roof, splashing between them. Olivia was soaking wet, her dark hair plastered to her face. She was shivering, though Samuel couldn't tell if it was from cold or fear. Probably both. Please, she said again. I know I have no right to ask. I know what I did to you. But my children, they're innocent in all this. Samuel closed his eyes. 7 years. It had been 7 long years since he'd last stood this close to Olivia Campbell. Back then, she'd been 18 and full of dreams. He'd been 22 and stupid enough to believe love could conquer anything. They used to meet by the creek on her father's property, hidden by the cottonwood trees. She'd bring books and read to him while he worked on fixing the old fence line. He'd bring wildflowers and make her laugh. They made plans. Big plans. They were going to get married, buy a little piece of land, start a family. But her father had other ideas. Thomas Campbell owned half the county and had big ambitions for his only daughter. A ranch hand wasn't good enough. Not for his Olivia. So when Henry Wright came through town, a successful merchant from Boston with money and connections, Thomas had made his choice. Samuel remembered the day Olivia told him. She'd cried in his arms by the creek, saying she had no choice. Her father wouldn't allow it. If she refused, he'd cut her off completely. She'd have nothing, be nothing. Go to Boston, Samuel had told her that day. Try to be strong even though his heart was breaking. Be happy. That's all I want for you. But he'd written her letters, dozens of them, pouring his heart out, begging her to come back, telling her he'd wait forever if he had to. He never got a single reply. After a year, he stopped writing. After 2 years, he stopped hoping. After 7 years, he'd almost convinced himself he'd stopped loving her. Almost. Samuel, Olivia's voice pulled him back to the present. Back to the rain and the storm and the reality standing in front of him. Are you still there? He opened his eyes. I'm here. I know you probably hate me, she said quietly. I wouldn't blame you if you did. I made my choice back then. I chose the safe option. I chose money over love. And I've paid for it every single day since. What happened to him? Samuel asked. Your husband. Olivia's face crumpled. Henry died 6 months ago. Heart attack. He was 47. She took a shaky breath. When the lawyers went through his papers, we found out the truth. The successful merchant business was a lie. Henry had been drowning in debt for years. He borrowed from everyone. He made bad investments. He gambled, and he put everything in my name without telling me. Samuel felt anger rising in his chest. He left you with his debts. All of them, Olivia confirmed. Over $8,000. I sold everything we had in Boston. The house, the furniture, my jewelry, everything. I managed to pay off about 3,000. But the rest, I couldn't do it. I had nothing left. Nowhere to go. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. So I came home, or what used to be home, into town. Olivia laughed, but there was no humor in it. You know how this town talks. The merchant's widow came crawling back. She thought she was too good for Oakage. Now look at her, broke and desperate. Sarah Jacobs made sure everyone knew I was back. Samuel grimaced. Sarah had been chasing him for 2 years, trying to get him to court her properly. She wouldn't be happy about Olivia's return, that was for sure. I'm staying in this old cottage because no one else would take it, Olivia continued. It's falling apart, but it's shelter. I've been trying to find work, but no one will hire me. They either think I'm too proud, or they don't trust a woman with my situation. I've been rationing the little food we have left. Grace hasn't complained, but I can see she's hungry. And James, he's just a baby. He needs milk, medicine, warm clothes. Thunder crashed overhead, making them both jump. Through the door, Samuel heard the little girl whimper. "Mama," the child called out. "I'm right here, sweetheart." Olivia called back, her voice instantly gentle despite her tears. Then she turned back to Samuel. "I shouldn't have come to you. I know that. But you're the only person I could think of who might remember me as something other than Thomas Campbell's spoiled daughter or Henry Wright's foolish widow." Samuel stared at her. His mind was at war with his heart. The smart thing would be to walk away. She'd made her choice 7 years ago. She'd picked wealth and status over him. Why should he risk his heart again? Why should he empty his pockets for a woman who'd abandoned him? But then he looked past her again at those 2 innocent children inside. They didn't ask for any of this. They didn't deserve to be punished for their parents' mistakes. And Olivia, broken, desperate, soaking wet Olivia, she wasn't the same girl who'd left. Life had beaten her down. He could see it in every line of her face, every slump of her shoulders. She paid a heavy price for that choice. Maybe they both had. "How much do you owe the bank?" he asked finally. Olivia blinked, hope flickering in her eyes. $500. By Saturday. Any other debts? Another 700 scattered between different people in Boston. But the bank is the urgent one. If I don't pay by Saturday, they'll take legal action. Samuel did the math in his head. $1,200 total. He had about $1,500 saved up from his years as foreman at Double Creek Ranch. His boss, Mr. Douglas, had made him a partner last year. They were planning to expand the herd, buy more land. That money was supposed to be Samuel's investment in his future. But what kind of future could he have if he walked away now? Could he really live with himself, knowing he'd left Olivia and her children to face this alone? "All right," he said finally. The word felt heavy coming out of his mouth. "I'll help you." Olivia's knees nearly buckled with relief. "Samuel, thank you. Thank you so much. I promise I'll pay you back every penny. I don't know how yet, but I will." Samuel held up his hand. "Stop. Before you thank me, you need to hear my terms. This isn't charity, Olivia. And it's not because of what we used to have. That's in the past. This is business. Pure business. Do you understand?" The hope in her eyes dimmed slightly, but she nodded. "Yes, I understand." "Good." Samuel stepped back, putting distance between them. He needed space to think clearly, and having her so close made that impossible. "I'll pay off your bank debt tomorrow. That gives you breathing room. But you're going to work off every dollar you owe me. I need help at Double Creek Ranch. Our cook quit last month, and we're drowning in paperwork. You'll work in the kitchen, help with mending, and keep the book straight. You'll get room and board for you and the kids, plus a small wage. Every penny of that wage goes toward your debt until it's paid off." "Fair. More than fair," Olivia said quickly. "When do I start?" "Monday morning. 6 o'clock sharp. Ranch hands eat breakfast at 6:30, so you'll need to have food ready. Lunch is at noon, dinner at 6. Between meals, there's always mending to do, or you can work on the account books in Mr. Douglas's office. Can you handle that?" "Yes. I can cook, and I'm good with numbers." Henry made me manage the household accounts. She paused. What about Grace and James? I can't leave them alone. Samuel had already thought about that. Bring them. The ranch house is big enough. There's a small room off the kitchen that used to be a pantry. We converted it to a bedroom a few years back, but nobody's using it. The kids can stay there during the day. Grace is old enough to play quietly, and the baby, well, babies sleep a lot, right? James is a good baby, Olivia assured him. He hardly ever fusses, and Grace is very well behaved. She won't be any trouble, I promise. They better not be, Samuel said, but his voice had softened despite himself. He couldn't help it. The image of that little girl with her rag doll was stuck in his head. Look, I'm not a monster, Olivia. I'm not going to work you to death or treat you badly. But I need you to understand something. What we had before, that's done. Dead and buried. I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do, not because I'm hoping for anything else. Clear. Crystal clear, Olivia whispered, but something in her expression told Samuel she didn't quite believe him. Or maybe she didn't want to believe him. He couldn't tell which was worse. Good. Now get back inside before you catch your death. I'll send Diego by tomorrow with a wagon to move your things to the ranch. Pack light. You won't need much. Samuel will wait. Olivia reached out but stopped herself before touching him. I need you to know something. That choice I made 7 years ago, it was the biggest mistake of my life. Not a day went by that I didn't think about you. About us. About what we could have had. Samuel's jaw tightened. Don't do that. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I'm sorry. You're right. Olivia wrapped her arms around herself. Business. I'll see you Monday morning. 6 o'clock. Samuel nodded and walked away before he could do something stupid like pull her into his arms. His horse whinnied as he approached, shaking its mane against the rain. He mounted up and rode off into the storm without looking back. If he'd looked back, he might have seen Olivia standing on that porch, watching him disappear into the darkness, tears mixing with rain on her face. The ride back to Double Creek took 20 minutes. By the time Samuel reached the barn, he was soaked through and his head was pounding. Diego Martinez, the head ranch hand and Samuel's closest friend, was waiting inside with a lantern. So, Diego asked, leaning against the stall door, "Did you do the stupid thing?" "I did the stupid thing," Samuel confirmed, dismounting. "I jeef. You're playing with fire." Diego shook his head. "That woman broke your heart once. She'll do it again. It's not like that. It's just business. She needs work, I need help. Simple." Diego laughed outright. Simple? Nothing about this is simple. You've been in love with that woman for 7 years. Now she's going to be living under the same roof, cooking your meals, and you think you can keep it just business? "I have to," Samuel said firmly. He started unsaddling his horse, needing something to do with his hands. "I'm not that stupid kid anymore, Diego. I built a good life here. I've got savings, a partnership with Mr. Douglas, respect in this town. I'm not throwing that away for a woman who chose someone else over me. But she's back now, as another man's widow, with 2 kids and a mountain of debt. That's not exactly the fairy tale ending I dreamed about." Diego was quiet for a moment, watching Samuel work. Then he said, "You know what I think? I think you're lying to yourself. You already decided the moment she said, 'Don't leave me alone.' Everything else is just you trying to convince yourself you're being smart about it." Samuel didn't answer because Diego was probably right. He finished with the horse and headed toward the main house, his wet boots squishing with every step. The ranch house was dark except for one window, Mr. Douglas's office. Samuel knocked lightly before entering. "Come in," called a gruff voice. Edmund Douglas was 65 years old, built like a bear, and had a heart softer than he'd ever admit. He'd given Samuel a job 10 years ago when Samuel was just a kid with nothing but calluses and determination. Over the years, he'd become more than a boss. He'd become the father figure Samuel never had. "Heard you rode out to the Miller cottage," Mr. Douglas said without looking up from his papers. "Town gossip works faster than lightning." "I'm hiring her," Samuel said bluntly. Olivia Wright. She starts Monday. Kitchen work, mending, bookkeeping. Her kids will be here, too. Mr. Douglas finally looked up. His weathered face was unreadable. That wise? Probably not. But it's done. The old man studied Samuel for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right, your call. You're a partner now, which means you get a say in who we hire. But Samuel, be careful. That woman hurt you once. Don't give her the chance to do it twice. I won't, Samuel promised. But as he lay in bed that night, listening to the storm finally pass, Samuel wasn't sure he could keep that promise. Because the truth was, seeing Olivia again had ripped open every old wound he thought had healed. And the worst part? Some foolish part of him was glad she was back. Glad he'd have a reason to see her every day. Glad for a second chance at something he thought he'd lost forever. Diego was right. He was playing with fire. And Samuel had a sinking feeling he was about to get burned. Monday morning came too quickly. Samuel was already in the kitchen at 5:30, making coffee the way he'd been doing since their cook left. He heard the wagon pull up outside right at 6 o'clock. Punctual. That was good. The door opened and Olivia walked in, carrying the baby on her hip. Little Grace followed behind, clutching her mother's skirt and looking around with wide, curious eyes. They'd cleaned up since the storm. Olivia's hair was pinned back neatly, and she wore a simple gray dress that had seen better days but was clean and pressed. The children looked freshly scrubbed. Good morning, Olivia said quietly. Where should I start? Samuel pointed to the stove. Coffee's ready. Biscuits are in the oven, but they're probably burned by now. I'm not much of a cook. The pantry's stocked. Eggs, bacon, flour, whatever you need. The hands expect a hot breakfast in 30 minutes. I can do that. Olivia set James down in a basket she brought, then immediately set to work. Her movements were efficient and practiced. Within minutes, she had biscuits baking properly, eggs scrambling, and bacon sizzling. Grace sat quietly in the corner with her doll, not making a sound. Samuel watched for a moment, then forced himself to leave. He had work to do, fences to check, cattle to count, anything to keep his mind off the fact that Olivia Campbell was back in his life, standing in his kitchen, cooking his breakfast. When the ranch hands came in at 6:30, they stopped dead at the sight of Olivia serving up plates of food. Samuel saw the looks they exchanged, the questions in their eyes. Diego cleared his throat. Boys, this is Mrs. Wright. She's our new cook and bookkeeper. You treat her with respect, understand? There were nods and murmurs of agreement. The men sat down and started eating. After the first few bites, the murmurs turned to sounds of appreciation. Whatever else Olivia was, she could definitely cook. Samuel took his plate outside to eat on the porch. He couldn't sit in there with her. Not yet. It was too much, too soon. But as he ate, he could hear Grace's small voice asking questions. Is this a farm? Do you have horses? Can I see them? And he heard Olivia's gentle responses. Yes, sweetheart. Lots of horses. Maybe later, if the nice men say it's okay. Samuel closed his eyes. He'd made a deal with the devil, and her name was Olivia Campbell Wright. This was going to be a very long arrangement. 3 weeks passed in a strange, tense routine. Olivia proved herself more capable than Samuel had expected. She ran the kitchen like a military operation, with meals appearing on time, hot and delicious. The ranch hands stopped grumbling about the old cook and started showing up early for breakfast. She tackled the account books that had been a mess for months and had them organized within a week. Even Mr. Douglas was impressed. But it was the small things that got under Samuel's skin. The way she hummed while she worked. The way she smiled when she thought no one was watching. The way she tucked wildflowers into a jar on the kitchen windowsill, just like she used to do at her father's house. And the children. God help him. The children were breaking down his walls faster than anything else. Grace had started following Samuel around whenever she got the chance. She'd appear at the barn door, watching him work with those big, curious eyes. She'd ask a million questions about the horses, the cattle, the chickens. At first, Samuel had tried to keep his distance, giving short answers and walking away. But Grace was persistent and sweet and completely innocent of all the complicated history between him and her mother. One afternoon, she'd tugged on his sleeve and asked, "Mr. Samuel, could you teach me to ride a horse? Mama says I have to ask permission first." Samuel had looked down at those hopeful eyes and found himself saying yes before he could think better of it. He'd lifted her onto the gentlest mare they had, walked her around the corral, and watched her giggle with pure joy. The sound had done something to his chest, made it tight and warm at the same time. Olivia had watched from the kitchen window. When Samuel glanced up, their eyes had met for just a moment. The look on her face had been grateful and something else. Something that made Samuel turn away quickly and focus on Grace's riding lesson. Baby James was easier to resist because babies didn't ask questions or follow you around. But even he had his moments. Like when he'd smile his toothless grin at Samuel during breakfast, or when he'd reach his chubby hands out wanting to be held. Samuel had held him exactly once, when Olivia's hands were full and James was fussing. The baby had settled immediately against Samuel's chest, and Olivia had looked at him with such softness that Samuel had handed James back as quickly as possible. The town had noticed, of course. Oakage was too small for secrets. Sarah Jacobs had made several pointed visits to the ranch, bringing pies and batting her eyelashes at Samuel while shooting daggers at Olivia with her eyes. The other women in town whispered behind their fans at church. The men made comments that Diego quickly shut down. But slowly, grudgingly, the town was starting to accept Olivia's presence again. She kept her head down, worked hard, and didn't put on any airs. That counted for something in a place like Oakage. It was a Friday night, 3 weeks into the arrangement, when everything changed. Samuel had stayed late checking on a sick calf in the barn. By the time he headed back to the house, it was past 10 o'clock. He expected the kitchen to be dark, everyone asleep. But a lamp was still burning. Olivia sat at the kitchen table, her head in her hands. Papers were scattered in front of her. She didn't hear him come in. "You should be asleep," Samuel said from the doorway. Olivia jumped, her hand flying to her chest. "Samuel, you scared me." "Sorry." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "What are you doing up?" "Just going through some old letters." She started gathering the papers quickly, but Samuel saw his own handwriting on one of them. His heart stopped. "Are those your letters?" Olivia confirmed quietly. "The ones you sent me in Boston. I found them after my father died. They were in a locked box in his study." Samuel felt like he'd been punched. "What?" Olivia's hands were shaking as she held up the stack of envelopes. "There had to be at least 30 of them. You wrote me, Samuel, for over a year. Letters telling me you loved me, asking me to come home, begging me not to give up on us." Her voice cracked. "I never got a single one. Not one." The room spun. Samuel grabbed the back of a chair to steady himself. "Your father kept them from you?" He confessed on his deathbed. Said he did what he had to do to protect me. That you would have dragged me down to nothing. That Henry was the better choice. Tears were streaming down Olivia's face now. He was wrong, Samuel. About everything. He was so wrong. Samuel didn't trust himself to speak. Rage was building in his chest, hot and dangerous. Rage at Thomas Campbell. Rage at the wasted years. Rage at the universe for being so cruel. "I thought you forgot about me," Olivia continued. "I thought you'd moved on and found someone else. I waited for letters that never came. After 6 months, I convinced myself you never really loved me at all. That it had just been a summer romance for you. So I tried to make the best of my marriage. I tried to love Henry, or at least respect him. But I couldn't, because every day, every single day, I thought about you." "Stop," Samuel said roughly. "Just stop." "I can't stop. I've been holding this in for 3 weeks, and I'm drowning in it." Olivia stood up, the chair scraping against the floor. "Do you know what my marriage was like? Do you want to know?" "No." "Henry knew I didn't love him. He knew from the very beginning, and it made him cruel." She was talking faster now, words tumbling out like water from a broken dam. He'd remind me constantly that I was his property, that my father had sold me to him for business connections, and I should be grateful. He controlled every penny I spent, every place I went, every person I talked to. When Grace was born, he barely looked at her, said daughters were worthless. When James came, he was angry it took me so long to give him a son. Samuel's hands clenched into fists. Olivia, he drank. He gambled. He made terrible business decisions and blamed everyone else. And when things went wrong, She stopped, swallowing hard. He never hit me, but he had other ways of making me feel small. Worthless. Stupid. He'd tell me I was lucky he married me at all, that no one else would have wanted Thomas Campbell's spoiled daughter. That's not true, Samuel said fiercely. None of that is true. I know that now. But back then, trapped in that house with no one to talk to, no way out, I believed him. I believed I deserved it for choosing wrong, for choosing him over you. Olivia wiped her eyes roughly. When he died, I felt guilty for being relieved. What kind of person feels relief when their husband dies? The kind who is trapped in a nightmare, Samuel said. His anger was shifting, transforming into something else. Something that felt dangerously close to the way he used to feel about her. I found your letters 2 days after his funeral, Olivia continued. I was going through my father's things and found the lockbox. When I read them, Samuel, when I saw how much you loved me, how long you waited, I broke down. I cried for 3 days straight because I realized I'd wasted 7 years of my life with the wrong man when the right one had been there all along, trying to reach me. She took a step toward him, and Samuel took a step back. He couldn't let her get close. Not now. Not when his defenses were crumbling. That's why I came back to Oakage, Olivia said. Not just because I was broke and desperate, but because I hoped, I prayed, that maybe you were still here. That maybe, somehow, we could. She trailed off, seeing the look on his face. Could what? Samuel asked harshly. Start over? Pretend the last 7 years didn't happen? Pretend you didn't marry someone else and have his children? I love my children, Olivia said firmly. They're the only good things that came from that marriage. I'd never pretend they didn't exist. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Samuel ran his hands through his hair, frustration and pain warring inside him. I mean, it's too late, Olivia. We're different people now. You're a widow with 2 kids and a past. I moved on, built a life. I can't just throw that away because you finally decided I was worth coming back to. Is that what you think? Olivia's voice rose. That I came back because I decided you were worth it? Samuel, I never stopped thinking you were worth it. I just didn't know you'd try to reach me. I thought you'd forgotten me. Well, I tried to forget you. Samuel shot back. Do you know how hard I worked to get over you? I threw myself into this ranch. I saved every penny. I made something of myself. I dated other women. Sarah Jacobs has been after me for 2 years. And you know what? Maybe I should have given her a chance. Maybe I should have married her and had my own family by now instead of waiting around for a ghost. Olivia flinched like he'd slapped her. Then why didn't you? Why didn't you marry Sarah or anyone else? The question hung in the air between them. Samuel opened his mouth, then closed it, because the answer was too honest, too raw. Because I couldn't, he finally admitted, his voice dropping to barely a whisper. Because every woman I looked at, I compared to you, and none of them measured up. None of them made me feel the way you did. None of them were you. Olivia's breath caught. Samuel, but that doesn't change anything, he continued, forcing steel back into his voice. Feelings aren't enough. They weren't enough 7 years ago, and they're not enough now. What if they could be? Olivia moved closer, and this time Samuel didn't step back. What if we could try again? Start fresh. With your dead husband's debts hanging over your head? With his children calling another man Papa? With the whole town watching and waiting for us to fail? Samuel shook his head. That's not starting fresh. That's starting with a mountain of complications. Grace and James are not complications, Olivia said, her voice turning cold. "They're my children. And yes, they're Henry's children too, but that doesn't make them less worthy of love or a father figure or a good life." "I didn't mean it like that." "Yes, you did." Olivia grabbed the letters off the table and held them to her chest. "You know what? You're right. It's too late. Not because too much time has passed, but because you've built such high walls around your heart that nothing can get through. Not even the truth. Not even me." She turned to walk away, but Samuel caught her arm. The touch sent electricity through both of them. They stood frozen, inches apart, breathing hard. "I'm scared," Samuel admitted. "I'm scared of getting hurt again. I'm scared of opening my heart to you and your kids and then losing everything. I'm scared that history will repeat itself and you'll leave again. I'm scared I'm not strong enough to survive that twice." Olivia's expression softened. She reached up with her free hand and gently touched his face. "I'm scared too. Scared you'll never forgive me. Scared I've ruined any chance we had. Scared I'll mess this up again." They stared at each other in the lamplight, years of pain and longing and regret swirling between them. Samuel knew he should let go of her arm, should step back, should maintain the boundaries he'd so carefully set. But he didn't. Instead, he pulled her closer, just a fraction, testing, wondering if she'd pull away. She didn't. "This is a bad idea," Samuel whispered. "Probably the worst," Olivia agreed. But neither of them moved. They stood there in the quiet kitchen, hearts pounding, while the rest of the ranch slept. Years of separation had brought them to this moment. The question was, what would they do with it? The almost kiss in the kitchen changed everything and nothing at the same time. Samuel had pulled away at the last second, mumbling something about needing to check on the horses. Olivia had let him go, but the air between them had been different ever since. Charged, dangerous, full of possibility. For the next 2 weeks, they danced around each other. Samuel found excuses to be in the kitchen more often. Olivia started wearing her hair down, sometimes the way she used to when they were young. They'd brush past each other reaching for the coffee pot, and a brief contact would send sparks through both of them. Diego watched it all with knowing eyes and a smirk that said, "I told you so," without speaking a word. Grace had fully adopted Samuel as her favorite person on the ranch. She'd wait by the barn every morning for him to lift her onto the mare for her daily ride. She'd chatter about everything and nothing while Samuel worked, and he found himself actually enjoying her company. The kid was smart and funny, with none of her father's cruelty or her grandfather's snobbery. She was pure Olivia all the way through. Even baby James had warmed to Samuel. The little guy would light up when Samuel walked into a room, reaching his pudgy arms out for attention. Samuel had stopped fighting it. He'd hold James while Olivia finished cooking, bouncing the baby on his knee and making him giggle. It felt natural, right? Like maybe this could actually work. The town was coming around too. Mrs. Henderson from the general store had started chatting with Olivia when she came in for supplies. A few of the church ladies had stopped by with preserves and bread, their way of saying she was welcome again. Even Sarah Jacobs had backed off, though she still shot poisonous looks whenever she saw Samuel and Olivia together. Mr. Douglas had pulled Samuel aside one afternoon. "You're falling for her again," he'd said bluntly. "Don't bother denying it. I can see it all over your face." "Maybe I am," Samuel had admitted. "Is that so wrong?" "Not wrong, just complicated. But son, if she makes you happy, and those kids make you happy, then life's too short to waste it being scared. Your mama, God rest her soul, she used to say love doesn't come around twice. When it does come around, you better grab it with both hands." Samuel had thought about those words a lot over the past few days. Maybe it was time to stop fighting this. Maybe it was time to admit he wanted more than just a business arrangement. Maybe it was time to tell Olivia the truth. He was still in love with her, and he wanted to try again. He decided to tell her tonight, after dinner, when the ranch hands had gone to the bunkhouse and the kids were asleep. He'd rehearsed it in his head a dozen times. Nothing fancy, just honest. But life had other plans. It was a Tuesday afternoon when the stranger arrived. Samuel was in the north pasture fixing a fence line when Diego came riding up fast, his face grim. "Chief, we got a problem. There's a man at the house. Says he's from Boston. Says he needs to talk to Mrs. Wright about her late husband's business." Samuel's stomach dropped. "What kind of business?" "The kind that doesn't look friendly. He's got papers with him. Legal papers." They rode back to the ranch house at a gallop. Samuel could see a fancy buggy parked out front, the kind that cost more than most folks in Oakage made in a year. Standing on the porch was a man in an expensive suit, holding a leather briefcase. He was tall, thin, with slick back hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Olivia stood in the doorway, her face pale. Grace was hiding behind her mother's skirts, sensing something was wrong. Mr. Douglas was there too, his arms crossed, looking like he wanted to throw the stranger off his property. "Mr. Winters, I presume," the stranger said as Samuel dismounted. "I'm Victor Pemberton, Henry Wright's former business partner. I've been trying to locate Mrs. Wright for some time now." "What do you want?" Samuel asked, moving to stand between Pemberton and Olivia. "Just to settle some outstanding business matters." Pemberton's smile widened, showing too many teeth. "You see, when Henry died, there were certain debts that Mrs. Wright may not be aware of. Debts that require immediate attention. I paid off Henry's debts," Olivia said, her voice shaking. "I sold everything and paid what I could. The rest, I'm working to pay off here." "Ah, but you see, there's one debt you didn't know about." Pemberton opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of papers. "A business loan that Henry and I took out together 3 years ago. $5,500. We were supposed to pay it back within 5 years, but Henry's untimely death has accelerated the repayment terms. The full amount is now due immediately." Samuel felt his blood turn to ice. $5,500? That's impossible. Olivia doesn't have that kind of money. "Oh, I'm well aware." Pemberton's smile never wavered. "But she signed the loan documents as a co-signer, which means she's legally responsible for the full amount. I have the papers right here, with her signature." "I never signed anything like that," Olivia protested. "Henry sometimes had me sign papers, but he never told me what they were for. He said it was just routine business documents." "Ignorance of what you signed doesn't absolve you of responsibility, Mrs. Wright." Pemberton pulled out another document. "According to the loan terms, if payment isn't made within 30 days of demand, the lender has the right to seize assets as collateral. Since you have no assets, the court can assign alternative forms of repayment." "What does that mean?" Mr. Douglas growled. Pemberton's eyes glittered. "It means Mrs. Wright could face debtor's prison. Or, alternatively, her children could be placed in a workhouse until such time as the debt is satisfied through their labor." Olivia made a sound like a wounded animal. Samuel felt rage explode through his chest. "You're threatening to take her children?" "I'm simply explaining the legal reality of the situation," Pemberton said smoothly. "Of course, I prefer to avoid such unpleasantness, which is why I'm here to offer a solution. If Mrs. Wright returns to Boston with me, I have a position available in one of my establishments. She could work off the debt over time. 5 years, perhaps. Maybe 10. "What kind of position?" Diego asked, his hand moving to the knife at his belt. Pemberton's smile turned predatory. "The kind suitable for a woman in her circumstances. I run several boarding houses in Boston. She'd be well taken care of." The implication was clear, and it made Samuel's vision turn red. "Get off this property. Now." "I'm afraid I can't do that until this matter is settled." Pemberton pulled out yet another document. "I have a court order authorizing me to take Mrs. Wright and her children back to Boston to face a debtor's tribunal. Unless, of course, the debt is paid in full within the next 72 hours. "This is extortion," Mr. Douglas said. "This is business," Pemberton countered. "Bad business, perhaps, but legal nonetheless. Henry Wright borrowed money using his wife's signature as collateral. The debt is real, and it must be paid." Olivia was shaking now, tears streaming down her face. Please don't take my babies. They're innocent." They haven't done anything wrong. Then pay what you owe, Pemberton said simply. Samuel's mind was racing. $5,500. He had about $300 left in his savings after paying Olivia's initial debts. Mr. Douglas might have more, but pulling the kind of money together in 3 days would mean selling cattle, maybe even mortgaging the ranch. It would destroy everything they'd built. But the alternative was watching Olivia and her children be dragged to Boston to face God knows what. The alternative was losing them. I need proof, Samuel said, forcing himself to think clearly despite the rage and fear coursing through him. Proof that this debt is real and legal. Of course, Pemberton handed over the papers. The original loan documents, signed by both Henry Wright and Olivia Wright. The payment schedule, which shows Henry made only 2 payments before his death, and a court order authorizing collection. Samuel took the papers and looked them over. His reading wasn't perfect, but he knew enough to see that the documents looked official. And there, at the bottom of the loan agreement, was a signature that looked like Olivia's handwriting. I remember signing something like this, Olivia whispered, looking at the document. Henry brought it to me one night, said it was insurance papers for the business. I was holding baby James, he was crying, and Henry was impatient. He shoved the pen in my hand and told me to sign. I didn't even read it. And that's your problem, not mine, Pemberton said. Ladies, this is why you should always read what you sign. But we can resolve this unpleasantness quite easily. Pay the debt, or come with me to Boston. You have 72 hours to decide. She's not going anywhere with you, Samuel said firmly. Then I suggest you find $5,500 very quickly, Mr. Winters. Pemberton tipped his hat. I'm staying at the Oakage Hotel, room 12. You know where to find me when you have the money, or when Mrs. Wright is ready to accept my alternative arrangement. He climbed into his fancy buggy and drove away, leaving silence in his wake. The moment he was out of sight, Olivia's legs gave out. Samuel caught her before she hit the porch, holding her up. She was sobbing now, great gasping sobs that shook her whole body. My babies, she kept saying. He's going to take my babies. Grace started crying too, frightened by her mother's distress. Mr. Douglas scooped the little girl up, trying to comfort her. Diego stood rigid, his face dark with anger. That man is a snake, Diego spat. Everything about him is wrong. This smells like a trap. Legal or not, the threat is real, Mr. Douglas said grimly. If he's got court papers, he can make good on it. Samuel helped Olivia to a chair, his mind working frantically. $5,500 in 3 days. It was impossible, unless his partnership investment, the money he'd been saving for years to expand the ranch, to secure his future. It was almost exactly $5,500. If he cleaned out his account completely, sold his horse and saddle, maybe pawned his father's pocket watch, he could probably come up with the full amount. But it would leave him with nothing. Back to where he started 10 years ago, broke and dependent on Mr. Douglas's charity. Diego saw the look on his face. No, Chief, no. Don't even think about it. What choice do I have? Let me ride to town, gather some of the boys. We can make that Pemberton snake disappear. He'd never make it back to Boston. And then what? Samuel asked. The law comes after us? We all hang for murder? That's not a solution, Diego. There has to be another way, Mr. Douglas said. But his voice lacked conviction. They all knew the truth. In 3 days, either Samuel came up with the money, or Olivia and her children would be gone. Olivia looked up at Samuel, her eyes red and swollen. You can't do this. You can't throw away everything you've worked for because of my mistakes. They're not your mistakes, Samuel said gently. Your husband lied to you, manipulated you. This isn't your fault, but it's my signature on those papers. My responsibility. Olivia stood up, swaying slightly. I'll go with him. I'll work in his boarding house or whatever hell he has planned. But maybe Grace and James could stay here with you, just until I can earn enough to come back for them. Absolutely not, Samuel said firmly. I'm not letting you walk into that trap. and I'm not separating you from your children. Then what do we do? Olivia's voice broke. Samuel, what do we do? He looked at her standing there, broken and desperate and terrified. He looked at Grace, crying in Mr. Douglas's arms. He thought about baby James sleeping peacefully inside, unaware that his whole world was about to be destroyed. And Samuel made his choice. We pay the debt, he said quietly. All of it. I'll go to the bank first thing tomorrow morning and withdraw everything I have. It should be enough. Samuel, no. Yes, he interrupted. This is my decision, Olivia. Mine. And I'm making it with my eyes wide open. But your future, your partnership, everything you've worked for. Samuel reached out and gently cupped her face in his hands. None of that matters if you're not here. Don't you understand? I spent 7 years trying to build a life without you. And I was miserable. I was just going through the motions, waiting for something to give my life meaning. And then you came back. You and Grace and James. You gave me that meaning. Samuel, Olivia whispered. I love you, he said simply. I never stopped loving you. I try to fight it, try to keep my distance, try to protect myself. But I can't. I don't want to. I want you here. I want those kids here. I want us to be a family. And if that means I have to start over from nothing, then that's what I'll do. Because you're worth it. You've always been worth it. Tears were streaming down Olivia's face, but these were different tears. Not despair, but something else. Something that looked like hope. I love you too, she said. I never stopped either. Even in Boston, even married to Henry, even when I thought you'd forgotten me. I loved you. Samuel pulled her into his arms, holding her tight while she cried. Over her shoulder, he saw Mr. Douglas nodding approvingly. Diego still looked worried but resigned. They all knew what this meant. Samuel was betting everything on love. And God help them all if he was making a mistake. Samuel was at the bank when it opened the next morning. The manager, Mr. Patterson, looked surprised to see him so early. Samuel, what brings you in? I need to withdraw my savings. All of it. Mr. Patterson's eyebrows shot up. All of it? That's over $5,000, Samuel. That's your future you're talking about. I know what it is, Samuel said firmly. I need it today, in cash. The banker studied him for a long moment, then sighed. This is about the right widow, isn't it? Word travels fast in this town. That Boston man's been talking to everyone about her debts. Just give me my money, please. It took an hour to count out the bills. Samuel watched his life's savings pile up on the desk in front of him. Every dollar represented a day of hard work, a night of going without, a dream of something better. And now it was all going to Victor Pemberton, a snake in an expensive suit. But when Samuel thought about Olivia's face, about Grace's innocent smile, about baby James reaching his little arms out, he knew he'd make the same choice 100 times over. He stopped by the jeweler next and sold his father's pocket watch. The old man behind the counter tried to talk him out of it. Your daddy gave you that watch on his deathbed, Samuel. I know, but he'd understand. Samuel pocketed the extra $200. It wasn't much, but it would help. By noon, he had $5,600 in his saddlebag, more than enough to pay off Pemberton and send him back to Boston empty-handed. He found Pemberton at the hotel restaurant, eating an expensive steak. The man's face lit up when he saw Samuel. Mr. Winters, I was hoping to see you. Have you come to discuss terms? I've come to pay the debt. Samuel dropped the saddlebag on the table with a heavy thunk. $5,500. Count it. Pemberton's smile faltered. I see. How enterprising of you. Though I must say, I'm disappointed. I was looking forward to Mrs. Wright's company on the journey back to Boston. She's not your property, Samuel said, his voice dangerous. She never was. Count the money and give me a receipt showing the debt is paid in full. Pemberton opened the bag and began counting. His expression grew more sour with each stack of bills. When he finished, he pulled out a pre-written receipt and signed it with a flourish. The debt is satisfied. Mrs. Wright is free to go. Such a shame. She would have been quite profitable for me. Samuel snatched the receipt before Pemberton could change his mind. Get out of Oakage. Today. And if I ever see you near Olivia or her children again, they won't find enough of you to send back to Boston." Pemberton's eyes widened slightly. "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise. Now get out." Samuel left before he did something he'd regret, like putting his fist through Pemberton's smug face. He rode back to the ranch with the receipt in his pocket and an empty saddlebag at his side. He'd done it. Olivia and the children were safe. But the weight of what he'd just sacrificed was starting to settle on his shoulders. Everything he'd worked for, gone. He was 30 years old and starting over from scratch, just like he'd been at 20. When he got back to the ranch, Olivia was waiting on the porch. She took one look at his face and knew. "You did it. You paid him. It's done. He's gone. You're free." Samuel dismounted slowly, suddenly feeling exhausted. Olivia ran to him, throwing her arms around his neck. "Samuel, what did you do? How much did you pay?" "Everything," he admitted. "My savings, my father's watch, everything I had. But it's worth it. You're safe. The kids are safe. That's all that matters." "No." Olivia pulled back, tears streaming down her face. "No. Samuel, you can't do this. You can't give up everything for me. Too late. Already done. But your partnership with Mr. Douglas, your future plans, the ranch expansion." Samuel cupped her face in his hands. "None of that means anything without you. Don't you understand yet? I'd give up 1,000 futures if it meant keeping you in this one. I love you, Olivia. I've loved you since I was 22 years old, and I'll love you until the day I die. Money comes and goes. Ranches can be rebuilt. But you're irreplaceable. I don't deserve you," Olivia whispered. "Maybe not, but you stuck with me anyway." Samuel smiled, and despite everything, it felt genuine. "We'll figure it out. Together." "Together," Olivia repeated. Then she kissed him. Not the almost kiss from the kitchen, but a real kiss. 7 years of longing and pain and hope all poured into that one moment. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Olivia pressed her forehead against his. "Marry me, Samuel Winters." He laughed. "I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to ask you that." "Then ask me." "Olivia Campbell, right? Will you marry me? Will you let me be a father to Grace and James? Will you build a life with me, even though I'm broke and have nothing to offer but calloused hands and a stubborn heart?" "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Yes to all of it. I choose you, Samuel. This time I choose love. I choose us. Forever." The wedding was planned for the following month, but Oakage had other ideas. When word spread that Samuel had given up everything to save Olivia and her children, something shifted in the town. Mrs. Henderson organized a collection at church. The ranchers pooled together some cattle. Even Sarah Jacobs, swallowing her pride, donated her mother's wedding veil. "This town takes care of its own," Mr. Douglas told Samuel gruffly, handing him an envelope with nearly $2,000 collected from the community. "You did a brave thing, son. A stupid thing, maybe, but brave. We're not going to let you start from nothing." Samuel had tears in his eyes as he accepted the help. Olivia cried too when the women of Oakage came to the ranch with fabric for a wedding dress and offers to help with the ceremony. They were married on a Sunday afternoon in early May, under the cottonwood tree by the creek where they'd first fallen in love. Grace was the flower girl, scattering petals with serious concentration. Baby James dozed in Mrs. Henderson's arms. Diego stood as Samuel's best man, grinning like he'd known this would happen all along. Olivia wore a simple white dress that the church ladies had sewn together with Sarah's mother's veil. She'd never looked more beautiful. When Samuel slipped his mother's ring onto her finger, his hands were shaking. "I've waited 7 years for this," he whispered. "It was worth the wait," Olivia whispered back. The Reverend pronounced them husband and wife, and when Samuel kissed his bride, the whole town cheered. Grace tugged on Samuel's pants. "Does this mean you're my papa now?" Samuel knelt down to her level. "If you want me to be, I do." Grace threw her arms around his neck. "I want you to be my papa forever." "Then I will be. Forever." The reception was held at the ranch, with tables set up in the yard and more food than they could possibly eat. There was music and dancing and laughter. For the first time in years, Olivia looked truly happy. Free. As the sun began to set, Samuel found Olivia standing by the fence, watching the horses graze. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Happy?" he asked. "Happier than I ever thought possible," she replied, leaning back against him. "Samuel, I have something to tell you." "What's that?" She turned in his arms, a shy smile on her face. "I'm pregnant, about 2 months along. I wasn't sure, but the doctor confirmed it yesterday." Samuel's eyes widened. "Pregnant? We're having a baby." "We're having a baby," Olivia confirmed. "Grace and James are going to have a little brother or sister." Samuel whooped with joy, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around. Olivia laughed, clutching his shoulders. "Careful. Put me down." He set her down gently, then knelt and pressed his hand to her still flat stomach. "Hello in there, little one. I'm your papa. I promise I'm going to love you and protect you and give you the best life I can." Olivia ran her fingers through his hair, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. "You're going to be an amazing father. You already are." 1 year later, Olivia stood in the same spot by the fence, holding their daughter in her arms. Little Sarah Rose Winters had her father's dark hair and her mother's green eyes. Grace was teaching James how to feed the chickens, both children laughing as the birds pecked at the grain. Samuel was in the corral, training a new horse. Mr. Douglas had made Samuel a full partner in the ranch after the wedding, refusing to accept no for an answer. "You've more than earned it," he'd said. The ranch was thriving. The community had embraced their family completely. Olivia had even started teaching again, holding lessons for the children in town twice a week. Samuel looked over and caught Olivia watching him. He smiled and waved. She waved back, bouncing Sarah gently. "See your papa?" she cooed to the baby. "That's the man who saved us. The man who chose love over everything else." Diego walked past, tipping his hat. "Still playing with fire, Jeef?" Samuel laughed. "Best fire I ever played with." That evening, after the children were asleep, Samuel and Olivia sat on the porch swing. The stars were bright overhead, and the Oklahoma night was peaceful. "Do you ever regret it?" Olivia asked quietly. "Giving up everything for me?" Samuel pulled her closer. "Not for a single second. You know what I realized? I didn't give up everything. I gave up money and plans and things that could be replaced. But I gained something irreplaceable. I gained you. I gained Grace and James and Sarah. I gained a family. A real family. That's worth more than all the money in the world. I love you, Samuel Winters." "I love you too, Olivia Winters." He kissed her temple. 7 years we lost. But we got the rest of our lives to make up for it." "The rest of our lives," Olivia echoed, snuggling against his chest. She thought back to that stormy night when she'd stood on the porch and begged him not to leave her alone. She'd been desperate then, broken and afraid. But Samuel had stayed. He'd chosen her when he could have walked away. He'd sacrificed everything to protect her and her children. And now, sitting here on the porch of their home, surrounded by the sound of crickets and the warmth of his arms, Olivia knew one truth with absolute certainty. She never had to be alone again, and neither did he.